Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly talk about Deep Rock Galactic, the board game, specifically how to create your very own custom missions. Now, I'm going to show you as well how to do the random stuff, and it's all actually outlined in the rulebook, which I'll get to. But I have been sort of developing my own missions for this game, just for fun. I may refine the process a bit, but for right now, I can pump out like 2 or 3 missions within the span of a half an hour. It's pretty simple, and I wanted to show you what I'm doing in case you wanted to be creative as well. Now, of course, the game comes with 14 different missions, so you'll get a lot of playtime out of this, but again, if you've got something specific in mind that you want to try out, then this might help you out. So it's worth mentioning that I'm using the scripted tabletop version of the game, so you will need Tabletop Simulator in order to do this, at least to use this particular process. If you just own the tabletop game, then, you technically can just use that, but I'm using, for ease of demonstration purposes, just the tabletop version. So the first thing you're going to do once you reach the scripted version, and I'll put a link in the below description for you, you're going to click Manual Setup. That way you can place things out as you like it. Clicking on one of the missions will automatically script the tiles and the pieces and all that jazz, but you want a blank board to begin with. I also recommend that you open up PowerPoint, if you have it, some way to take a screenshot and even mess with text as you're doing this, because you're going to be copying and pasting some text into this, or possibly out of it, depending on where you want to start. But for example, I will load mine up real quick. So this is my PowerPoint that I'm currently working off of. And I like PowerPoint because, this is my mission 1, and then mission 2, mission 3. I have them on, one per slide. And on the right-hand side, I have a number of things covered here. I have like the mission, the title, difficulty, at least my estimated version of that difficulty, objectives, special conditions, mission-specific events, token loadouts and creatures and that kind of thing. And again, I may add to this or whatever, modify this later, but for right now, this seems to be working for me. So what I'm going to do first is work in Tabletop Sim and then copy and paste this into PowerPoint so that I have a record of it. We'll also be saving it in Tabletop Simulator so that you can easily pull up the scenario in the future. You can find your save files in Tabletop Simulator and share them with others, but if this is more for private use, then you really don't need to do that. Having it on PowerPoint and just saving the file should be enough for you. Okay, so let's go back to Tabletop Sim. There we go. And now, as far as random is concerned, and I'll just quickly get that out of the way, I'm going to pull up the rulebook right here. What you would do normally is that you would start in quadrant 1. If you look in the dead center of the screen, you'll see that the board is broken up into 4 quadrants, and the game is instructing you to roll a green die, and if you roll a bullet, then you'll place a cave segment in that area. And you can choose the loadout above. It says, first choose how many caves you want to play with. 2 revealed and 3 hidden, or 3 revealed and 2 hidden, or 4 revealed and 1 hidden, and so on. Again, you just come up with your own, really. It's whatever you like. But you're going to roll that green bullet die, and if you roll the bullet, then you can place the majority of a random cave segment in quadrant 1, and if you roll a blank, then you can move on to quadrant number 2, roll the die, see if you get a bullet or a blank. If you get a blank, you move on to 3, and so on. Eventually, you'll just be placing these tiles at random, and that's another quick and easy way to set this up. But if you want to try some cool things, then by all means do the custom setup, which I'm about to do. Rather than using the bullet die, what you could do is you could spawn a 4-sided die in Tabletop Simulator. To do that, you're going to go to Objects, and then you're going to go to Components, and then there should be dice. There we go. So click on dice, click on plastic, I guess. There's a 4-sided die. I can click on that and just put it down. I've already spawned one. And I'm going to close that. So if I just hit R to roll, there we go. So now, and if you get confused on 4-sided dice like I do, it's the bottom number, but if you hover your mouse over it, it actually tells you the number. In this case, it's 3. So I'd be looking at quadrant 3, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. So I would just pick a revealed one at random and place the majority of it in quadrant 3. And then I would roll this again. So rather than use a bullet die and then check for each quadrant to see if you would place one, you could just as easily just roll a 4-sided die. That's the quadrant you're going to be placing that cave segment in, and off you go. So I think the 4-sided die is a lot easier than checking for each quadrant as a yes or a no with the bullet die. But anyway, moving on to custom stuff. What I like to do first is just get the cave segments out of the bag. Now, with this particular version of Tabletop Simulator, like, stuff gets stuck. This is a really good version, don't get me wrong. This is a fantastic rendition of it. It's officially modded. I couldn't possibly come up with this, but there are some weird things that happen every now and again. If I pull this out, that's fine. This is just the starter. And I always start with the starter, and I like to put it off to the side until I figure out what I'm going to do with it. And then when you start to pull one out, you'll notice that I can't pull it. Why is I can't do it? It's locked. It just automatically becomes locked when I pull this out for some reason. So what I like to do is I just like to pull these out one at a time and then figure out which ones I want to use for this scenario. And these are just pull these out. And whatever I don't use, I'm just going to delete, because I can just as easily just pull up the core mod again and start over from scratch. That's not a big deal. So those are all of my like known cave segments. And then if I want to, I can just pull some random ones from the bag over here, shuffle them up if I want. But I like to actually, because I'm making custom ones, I like to actually specify which ones I'm using. That way I can sort of keep balance in check with regards to difficulty, because pulling a random hidden tile that has a Praetorian on it or something might be a little more difficult than, say, a tile with 3 grunts on it. So for right now, I've been hand-picking the hidden segments for purposes of difficulty balance. But you're going to pull all of the ones that are in these cave segment bags over here, and then you just put them out anywhere you want to. Again, you be creative. Again, you can use the whole roll a die and put them in the correct quadrant, or you can just as easily just start placing these down as you see fit. I highly recommend that you lock them after you place them, because this can get a little finicky. So hit L to lock. That way you've got it in place. And if you want to place some pits over top, again, just make sure it's lined up appropriately. Something like that, then hit lock to lock that. That way you don't accidentally, cause tiles to move. Things can actually, like, get hidden under. Like if you put a token on top, for example, the stalagmite, and then you accidentally move the bottom hex cave segment, this could fall underneath. The layering could get all messed up. So highly recommend that you lock your cave segments before you start piling tokens on top of it. So you might end up with something like this, and again, this is just for demonstration purposes. And if you're not going to use anything else over here, you can just select them and hit delete, and you're done. But again, if you mess up, you may not want to delete until you're sure you're happy with your map. And then, of course, you've got your spawner 1 and spawner 2. You can put them down. And my personal custom missions that I've been creating for my very easy mode missions, I just left one of them out. Like, just left number 1 in, and that's it. That way, only creatures spawn from one location. Again, just think outside the box and be creative about it. So I'm just going to do something like this as 1 and 2. And from there, I'm going to try and figure out now, I've got the map. Now, what kind of mission do I want? Over here to the right, there's barley bulbs and loot bugs and fossils. So maybe I'll make a fossil mission. So I need to figure out, okay, how many of these flares are on the board? Okay, there's 4 of them. So maybe I'll make this a nice quick fossil mission, something like this. Now, again, you can randomize these if you want, or you can custom put the tokens in there for purposes of balancing. Like, if you're worried that someone can easily beat the level by getting what they need and getting back out, purposely, you could also, just place a tile toward the back so that they're forced to go deeper into the cave in order to get it. Again, it's your playground. You do what you want. So I've got 2 fossils, and I'm going to turn these over for right now, and then I can flip them back over later. And maybe maybe I want some red sugar right there, and maybe I'll put not an apoca bloom. I could make that as a secondary if I wanted, maybe a loot bug. So I'll do that. So now I've got that in play. Now, do I want any starter monsters? I could just come up here, just drag some grunts onto the board. Again, I could pick anything I want, Macteras and web spitters. I could do that. So we'll do something like that. Do I want to be creative and add some kind of special thing for the map? Do I want to go, hey, if they interact with this tile, you can right-click on Mist Tiles and hit Search, and there's this upside down exclamation point in here. So let's just say that that's a special thing. That's one thing to watch out for, is accidentally hitting the X button in Tabletop Simulator and closing your entire program, as I often do because I work in windowed mode. Luckily, the game does autosave to some degree, so I just quickly fixed that. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, let's say I wanted to add some kind of mission special event to this. I can right-click under Mist Tiles over here, go to Search, and then maybe drag this drone onto the table. And maybe I want to say something like, this is some kind of mission critical event. In addition to the fossils, this is something they need to interact with in order to beat the scenario. Maybe it's a drone that needs to be repaired. Maybe it's a mini mule and you have to just spend an action to repair it. You can be totally, creative with stuff like this. And again, if you want to make this super easy, you can take a look at the Swarm deck and pull out particular cards, like maybe no Oppressor or maybe no Proterian, that kind of thing. So it's up to you. Even no Warden, just pick out the Swarm cards that you don't like. I think that's super helpful. But once you have something working, and it doesn't look like it's saved my creatures either, I'm just going to quickly add maybe a couple here, a couple there, maybe an Exploder, why not? Web Spitter, put it down there. And now I want to add some resources. Again, this is based on what your preferred difficulty is. My advice when it comes to adding Nitra and gold, make sure that you add enough gold so that folks have fun with overclocking their weapon. So maybe make sure you add enough loot bugs so that loot bugs give you 1 guaranteed gold. Since there's only 1 loot bug here, make sure you guarantee maybe 2 or 3 other gold in case there's 4 people playing. They could all overclock if they want to. Whenever you're adding Nitra, you want to try and add 3, like try adding them in multiples of 3, because it costs 3 Nitra for a drop pod. Now, of course, you can substitute gold for Nitra in order to drop a drop pod, or a supply pod. But in my case, I try and put enough Nitra on here for at least one supply pod. If I want it super easy mode, I'll add another set of 3 and then another set of 3, or just add extra gold so that they can use that to call down a drop pod or a supply pod, whatever. So it's up to you. But once you're happy with your loadout, you can then do a screenshot of this and copy and paste this over to PowerPoint or whatever program you want to use. Don't worry, we'll save it. But I like to save it in 2 places: one in Tabletop Simulator and one in PowerPoint. PowerPoint's nice because I could print these out and just put them in my box and then use them for later. So one keystroke that might be helpful to you is the Windows Shift S key. That brings up a screenshot. So I'm just going to maybe screenshot that, okay? And now I'm going to go over to PowerPoint. So let's close that down. And let's just I'll duplicate that slide, delete that, copy paste with Control V. And there's the map that I just created. Now I'm not going to keep this because it just seems super easy to me. I'd probably put that under the first slide. But from here, I can add, Mission 7, collect fossils or fossil collection, whatever, fossils, exclamation point, fossils, and mule or whatever. You pick. Difficulty easy, objectives, and then I could type in here, bring 2 fossils, or collect 2 fossils. How about that? Collect 2 fossils, and then under number 2, rescue or interact with, repair, there we go, repair mini mule, sure. And then I'll just put an exclamation point in parentheses to sort of reinforce the fact that this mini mule is the exclamation point marker on that mini map. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Special conditions, remove Oppressor and Praetorian from the Swarm deck. This is for the Aquark, so delete that. Mission specific, it's also good to have some kind of mission specific event specified because there are cards in the deck. Again, keep it super simple. In this case, yeah, maybe just spawn 2 grunts at 1 and 2, or I don't know, maybe ground trembles, roll for prone, whatever you want to do. Token loadout, what I like to do is from here just, you know, specify, okay, there's 2 fossils, and there's, you know, 1 red sugar, and there's 1 loot bug. And then also the starting creatures, in case I have trouble deciphering what creatures those are. I'll just type them out here so I can remember this is what they are. But yeah, again, I'm not going to keep that slide, but that's what I would typically do when setting up a scenario. And that took all of what? 5-10 minutes, and I was explaining things as I went. I pretty much have everything that I would place out here. And again, any extra like tiles, you can just delete them, just hitting the delete key. If you want to add a hidden cave segment, just make sure that you add it. You know, make sure there's a space that's mineable in between, or maybe make it a special rule that maybe it's surrounded in fog, or line of sight is, maybe it's like, I don't know, some sort of fog of war, or a really like, I don't know, some sort of area that's surrounded by some sort of cold air that you can't see through. It's very misty. So you could create a special rule that says you have to walk adjacent to this in order to reveal it. That kind of thing. You do you. But just whenever you add these hidden cave segments, make sure that you put a question mark on the reverse side of it. So maybe, you know, something like this, so that you're remembering that you have to put something there and account for it at some point. But also, again, you can handpick these at your leisure too. So there you go. I think that's going to help you get started with creating your own scenarios. To save it, what I would recommend doing, well, before we do that, hit Edit Note. And if you've got everything typed out in PowerPoint, you can hit Control-C, Control-V from here, and there it is. Mission 7 Fossils, difficulty easy. Just make sure you click on this Edit Note button to allow editing and to lock, so that you don't accidentally type over it. And if you change it in one place, you can always go back to the other place and change it as well. Just copy paste. But to save it, you would just go to Games, and then Save and Load, and then save up here. And then after Deep Rock Galactic, maybe type Mission 7, and then hit Save. And then that way I can pull up stuff in the future. Like this is Mission 5 that I was working on. I'm going to go ahead and load that one up. There. So it's all set and ready to go. This is my Praetorian assassination mission, where my whole goal is just to assassinate the Praetorian and interact with this thing down here. This is the Praetorian nest, so I have to spend an action to close it, or something like that. Again, I'm still working on these, but you do you. But yeah, this is a super easy way to start creating your own missions. You don't have to use PowerPoint if you don't want to, if you're happy with just using Tabletop Simulator or vice versa. But again, I like to have them in 2 different places. That way, if Tabletop Simulator goes the way of the dodo in the future, I'll have it in another place as backup. And again, with PowerPoint, I can print out my slides and just put them right in the box. But with Tabletop Simulator, it's easier for me to create missions digitally than it is for me to pull out my huge game box and start maneuvering minis around and all that jazz. So, yeah, it's just whatever works for you is what I would recommend. But hopefully this gets you started. And again, if you don't like any of this, then just by all means do a randomized mission. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, subscribe to me on Twitch and YouTube. That way you can stay up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.